Hi, I'm Carol Andrews for another episode of Southwest TV News. Here are some of the stories coming up on today's show. Last week's snowstorm across southern Saskatchewan was a sheer reminder that Mother Nature has more winter weather scheduled before spring arrives. Many residents of southwest Saskatchewan are familiar with the concept of pig spleen forecasting, thanks to the efforts of the late Gus Wickstrom, who became quite the local personality with his annual forecasts.
The agriculture industry in Saskatchewan is changing rapidly, with the federal government looking to cut costs in this sector by $300 million over the next 3 years.
Thanks for joining us here today. While winter is far from over in Saskatchewan, and Environment Canada wants to make sure you know the difference between all of the warnings being issued. Last week's snowstorm across southern Saskatchewan was a sheer reminder that Mother Nature has more winter weather scheduled before spring arrives. And amidst the ongoing weather reports from Environment Canada are a series of warnings, which are meant to give you a prequel of what's on the horizon for your area. Wind chill warnings are generally advised when the temperature and wind combination bring temperatures to the -30 or colder range. Meanwhile, a snowfall warning is usually issued for the prairies, when 10 centimeters of snow is expected in a 12-hour period. And as the conditions progress, so do the degree of warnings from Environment Canada.
We would issue a blizzard warning when winds were going to be expected to be 40 kilometers per hour or greater, visibility, say, less than half a kilometer, and in-blowing snow or drifting snow, and for those conditions to last for at least 4 hours. So granddaddy one of them all, though, is what we call a winter storm warning. Now, a winter storm warning would have the snow criteria, that is the 10 centimeters in 12 hours, or more than 10 centimeters in 12 hours, plus some other element to make life risky. It could be freezing rain. Just the mention of freezing rain at the time you have this snow would prompt what we would call a winter storm warning. It could very well be that you could just have blowing snow that would reduce the visibility down to a certain, or it could be blizzard conditions. So it's usually the snowfall amounts plus some other criteria. Could be often wind, or it could be temperature. Like a winter storm warning would be having a good amount of snow, but with wind chills that were, say, below -35.
Weather warnings for your region can be found through Environment Canada online and clearly displayed through the following color-coded system. By taking the time to fully understand the weather warnings issued and having knowledge of road conditions can all assist you in staying safe this winter season.
Being able to tell your story has become a critical issue for most businesses, but there are many choices to consider. The bottom line is you need to be able to connect with your customers, and nothing works better than video. Why do I say that? Take a look at this. Our company helps tell your story and provides you with a solution on how to market your business. Because making a great video is only half the equation. You have to know how to use it.
We have done a major.
Weather is an important factor to everyone across Saskatchewan. And alongside the traditional forecast coming from Environment Canada, it's another lighthearted one using the pig spleen. Many residents of southwest Saskatchewan are familiar with the concept of pig spleen forecasting, thanks to the efforts of the late Gus Wickstrom, who became quite the local personality with his annual forecasts and frequent appearances on our Southwest TV News program. His nephew Jeff Woodward has since assumed the family tradition, and now into his 5th forecast with the pig spleen, indicates his forecasts are becoming more accurate, and he's expanding the area he's getting the spleens from.
I got some spleens from the Earview Hutterite colony, which is just south of Gull Lake, sort of in that Tompkins area, which is the heart of pig spleen forecasting. And then I also got some from a fellow named Don Friesen up by Waldheim, and he runs a a butcher shop there. So I've got the main forecast is for the southwest, but there's a little bit of slant towards that north of Saskatoon area as well.
Now, with the spleens in place, Woodward has the following forecast for 2013. Keep in mind that the forecast intends to cover at least a 300-kilometer radius from where the spleens originate.
Warm winter, probably all the way up to February 28th. I think there's going to be. I said that it was going to cool down on January the 11th. Specific snowfall events on, I think I said January 20th, and between 20th and 31st. General light snow, several days, the snow will accumulate. Warmer than average winter. In springtime, we're going to have some special events in March and April, but a relatively dry May and a real wet June. So I think it's pretty good for farming conditions. You're going to be able to have a good period for seeding, and then it's going to get wet, so everything should germinate quite nicely for the crops.
And as he continues to hone his pig spleen forecasting year after year, Woodward indicates he's still not quite as entertaining as his late Uncle Gus was in his overall forecast presentation.
I've done a few interviews where I do actually bite into it. I haven't put it on my head yet, and I am a fairly bald man, but I'm quite happy being bald. I don't think I want to grow too much hair, so I haven't put it on my head yet.
Further details on Jeff Woodward's pig spleen forecasting can be found online. Changes are on the horizon for community pastures. And in this report, we speak with one Swift Current area rancher on how these changes may affect his operation.
The agriculture industry in Saskatchewan is changing rapidly, with the federal government looking to cut costs in this sector by $300 million over the next 3 years. One of the victims of the budget cuts is the PFRA, also known as the Prairie Farm Rehabilitation Administration. One of the ways the government is approaching this is by transferring community farming pastures to the provinces. The provinces are then looking to sell or lease these pastures to the ranchers, who have been using this land for generations. Bryce Burnett is a rancher in the Swift Current area who took the initiative to write a letter to the editor in one of the local newspapers in order to help inform the general public on this issue.
It's really a hot potato because the federal government just dumped this on the province and said, now you figure it out. And I really feel for the provincial people in trying to figure this out because they don't have any answers from the feds yet as to what is happening. And then they're trying to dump it on the patrons. So there's no answers anywhere. They just want them to form groups with no answers as to what's going to be happening with it.
The PFRA's main purpose is operating 80 community pastures across the prairies, with 62 of those here in Saskatchewan. There are 60 federal pastures that are going to be transferred to the provinces by 2018, starting with 10 set to be transferred by 2014. The pasture selection process was based on areas that garnered interest from patrons, proposals received, and consultations. Despite the process in place, concerns continue by those tied to the cattle industry.
I don't think they could afford to purchase it in many cases. They're basing it on land values, present market values, whatever that is, and it's different in different areas. And I don't think a lot of these patrons could afford that in the first place. Why would you want to go buy a piece of land that's probably 20 to 30 miles from your home and have to work with your neighbors to try and make things go? You might as well buy a piece of land right at home that you have full control on. And a lot of the younger people are already mortgaged or to the hilt or have a lot of other expenses they have to pay for other than just this land. And old fellows like myself don't have as many years left anymore, so why would I want to put money into something like that when I'm should be thinking of retiring instead?
It is hard to say how this will affect the future generations of farming. The pastures have been promised to the farmers, but if they fail to come together to purchase or lease, the outcome of these lands become unknown. Burnett, being a third-generation farmer, is for the first time unsure about the future of agriculture in Saskatchewan.
It evolved that it gave young people a very good chance to put cattle into the grazing system and get involved in agriculture. And that's going to be taken away from a lot of these young people, which is, to me, is too bad because that's what farming is all about, the next generation.
Changes are on the horizon for the ranching industry, and concerned individuals like Bryce Burnett will be keeping a close eye on the situation. For Southwest TV News, I'm Scott Armstrong.
Well, this brings to a close another episode of Southwest TV News, reporting the stories that matter to you. We always welcome your news tips. You can always reach us here by phone at our studio or by email to contact us at southwesttvnews.com. Also, be sure to join us daily online for the latest news from across Southwest Saskatchewan and so much more at mylocaltv.ca. And be sure to follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Thanks for joining us here today. I'm Carol Andrews.